The night air over the Sea of Galilee was thick with moisture as the disciples guided their boat toward the eastern shore, toward the region of the Gadarenes. The storm that had nearly destroyed them only hours earlier had now calmed into an eerie stillness. The water lay dark like black glass, reflecting the faint glow of the moon. Jesus sat at the bow, his robe still damp, his face serene. The disciples watched him with a mix of awe and bewilderment, whispering to each other about what they had just witnessed. Jesus speaking to the raging storm and the storm obeying him. They approached the shoreline as the first hints of dawn touched the horizon. The eastern side of the lake was unfamiliar to most of the disciples. It was Gentile territory, rough, rocky, and sparsely populated, known for its cliffs and caves. Strange stories circulated about this place, tales of restless spirits and a man who roamed the tombs like a wild animal. The disciples had heard the rumors, and now a sense of uneasiness settled over them. As the boat scraped against the pebbled shore, the disciples climbed out cautiously. The air smelled of wet earth and distant farmland. Behind them, the waves lapped softly. Ahead of them, a row of caves dotted the hillside, ancient tombs carved into the rock. And somewhere among them, the rumors said, lived a man no one could tame. Jesus stepped out of the boat with purpose. He did not hesitate. He did not look afraid. There was something about the way he walked steady, confident as though he was stepping not into danger, but into a divine appointment. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed across the cliffs. The disciples jolted in fear. From the largest tomb, a figure emerged. No, lunged into the open. A man, though barely recognizable as such. His hair tangled and matted, his body scarred from countless self-inflicted wounds, dried blood streaking his skin. His eyes glowed with a wild, tortured intensity. Iron shackles clung to his wrists and ankles, broken apart as if snapped by brute strength. Pieces of chain dragged behind him as he staggered forward. This was the man people feared. The man no one dared approach. The man possessed by something dark, something many. He sprinted toward Jesus with terrifying speed, his scream rising into a guttural roar. The disciples stepped back, ready to defend themselves, ready to defend Jesus. But Jesus stood still. The possessed man skidded to his knees before him, dust rising around them, his breathing heavy, animalistic. And then, with a voice that sounded like many voices speaking at once, the man cried out, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." The disciples froze. How did this man know Jesus' identity? How did he know what even many religious leaders had not yet understood? Jesus looked at him with deep compassion. Not fear, not disgust, not judgment, only love. Then Jesus spoke, his voice calm but with undeniable authority. "Come out of this man, you unclean spirit." The man's body seized violently, his head jerked back, and he screamed, again longer, louder, filled with agony. The air itself seemed to tremble. Jesus stepped closer and asked, "What is your name?" A shiver passed through the man's body. When he spoke, it was the demon speaking through him. "My name is Legion, for we are many." The disciples exchanged horrified looks. A Roman legion could number 6,000 soldiers. Could this man truly be tormented by thousands of demons? The demons continued, "Do not send us into the abyss. Let us enter the herd of pigs instead." Nearby, on the slope of the hill, a herd of about 2,000 pigs grazed peacefully, their snorts and squeals drifting through the morning air. The herdsmen who watched them had been eyeing the scene nervously, sensing something unnatural unfolding. Jesus lifted his hand. "Go." This single word carried absolute authority. In an instant, the man convulsed, his scream swelling into a chilling crescendo. When the sound broke, the demons left him an unseen storm exploding outward. The pigs reacted before anyone else could. Their ears shot up, their bodies stiffened. A chorus of panicked squeals erupted across the hillside. Then chaos. The entire herd bolted racing, Stumbling, screaming in terror, they rushed headlong toward the cliff's edge, unable to stop themselves. The herdsmen shouted after them, waving their arms, helpless to intervene. The pigs toppled over the edge and plummeted into the sea below, thrashing wildly before the waters swallowed them. Silence followed. A heavy, eerie silence. The disciples stared in shock. The herdsmen stood trembling. The cliffs echoed with the fading memory of screams. But at Jesus' feet, a miracle lay before them. The man who had moments ago writhed with demonic torment now sat calmly on the ground. His face had softened. His eyes were clear, truly human again. He looked at his hands, touched his face, then looked up at Jesus with tears streaming. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. Jesus placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. It was the first human touch the man had felt in who knows how long. The disciples watched with awe. This man had been feared by an entire region, chained repeatedly, cast out of society. But Jesus restored him in a moment. Soon, word spread. The herdsmen ran into the nearby town, breathless, shouting the story. People rushed toward the cliffs to see for themselves. When they arrived, they saw the man they once avoided, the man who had broken chains, howled in the tombs, terrorized travelers, now clothed, calm, and sitting at Jesus' feet. A hush fell over the crowd. Some looked at Jesus with wonder, others with fear. They glanced from Jesus to the shoreline, where the bodies of their pigs floated in the water. Economics weighed heavier on their minds than compassion. What they could not understand, they feared. Finally, a spokesman for the crowd stepped forward. His voice was uneasy but firm. "Please, leave our region." The disciples were stunned. Leave? After such a miracle? After freeing a man from unimaginable torment? But Jesus did not argue. Nor did he force his presence where it wasn't welcomed. He simply nodded and turned toward the boat. As Jesus stepped in, the once possessed man came rushing forward. His eyes were filled with desperate longing. "Lord, please let me go with you. Let me follow you." Jesus looked at him with tenderness. He knew the man's heart. He knew his gratitude. But he also knew his purpose. "Return to your home," Jesus said gently. "Tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has shown you mercy." The man's face fell for a moment, but then realization dawned. Jesus wasn't sending him away. He was sending him on mission. A man who once terrified a region would now become its greatest witness. He nodded and pressed his forehead to Jesus' hand. Then, as the boat drifted away from shore, the man stood on the beach watching until Jesus and the disciples became small figures on the water. From that day on, he traveled through the Decapolis, the 10 cities of the region, telling everyone he met about Jesus. He shared how he had been chained, isolated, tormented, filled with darkness, and how Jesus had restored him. He spoke of mercy, deliverance, compassion, and power. And people listened. People who once feared him now welcomed him. People who once avoided him now gathered around him. His testimony spread farther than any sermon, touching hearts that had never met Jesus in person. And it all began with a Savior who crossed a stormy sea just for one broken man.